Hey guys, welcome back to Drop Dice. This is Chris. So this is RPG A Day 2016. This is week 1, days 1 through 7, the late edition. So if you are watching my channel, you check the little YouTube description, you'll see that this was uploaded on the 9th. I am behind, but I have a great reason. I got married this weekend, so I haven't done anything with the channel for about 2 weeks now. I didn't prep any games. I didn't really play any games. I think I played in one maybe about a week and a half ago, but that didn't really require any prep from me because it was a character I already had pre-established. It was for our L5R drop-in, drop-out game. With that said, the channel is back up and running, but we're going to start things off with RPG a Day. Last year I wanted to do this, but I completely spaced until like the 20th, and I said, screw it, I'm not doing it. This year I want to kind of jump on it, even though I'm late, and answer these questions real quick. If you are interested in finding anything out about the wedding, I do recommend checking me out on Facebook. There is a link on the card here. It's Chris Wilhelm for Facebook. And you can find me there. I have a few pictures. When the photographer sends me all the pictures, we're going to release them all on Facebook and let everybody kind of enjoy it, even if you couldn't have come. So let's go down the list here real quick. So the first was Real Dice, Dicezap, Diceless. How do you prefer to roll? This is kind of a cop-out answer, but to me it depends on the media and the game. With that said, I love L5R, but L5R has a lot of weird dice rules to it. Inside a at-home game with players that have played it for a while, it goes very quickly. You don't really notice the dice there, but you can get dice pools that are up to 10 dice rolled, 10 dice kept, plus a certain static number. And if your players don't know that number off the top of their head, it can slow things down. Now, where it gets further complicated is you get stuff like, oh, if you have emphasis inside this skill, you get to re-roll ones. If you roll a 10, your numbers explode, so you get to re-roll that dice. And doing the math can sometimes be complicated, so I like dice rollers for that. In fact, if I was to play a home game of L5R, I would probably still use Roll20, which is my preferred dice roller because I've already written out macros for it, and I just think it works really well. It doesn't slow down the story. It's great. Now, other games that I think are less dice intensive, like D&D, whether it's online or in person, I don't care. Use whatever you want. You can do dice rollers. You can make up the numbers for all I care sometimes. Because I'll do that as a player even too. I'll just be like, I failed. My character wouldn't pay attention. I don't want to roll a perception check. I failed it. That's totally fine by me, so long as it makes sense for the fiction of the game. Now, no, the second was best game session since August 2015. I would say probably the best game session since then. I'm going to answer this twofold. The best one that I ran was Wedding at Clearwater Village, which has terrible audio, but it's such an excellent game that if you can sit through kind of the garbly sounds, you can hear a great example of what RPGs are supposed to be and what L5R specifically is supposed to be. There's investigation, there's creative use of skills, there's playing towards character strengths and things like that that some players don't necessarily always do. A lot of times players will look at an investigation game and they'll investigate the crime scene, they'll investigate the people who are directly involved. These players instead went a little bit kind of roundabouts with it. They talked to the spirits, which was a very traditional L5R way to investigate. They moved on, they talked to some of the people that could have been around the scene, which is again very traditional. They investigated the crime scene, again very traditional. But the fourth one, which was Joshua Kirk, which will answer actually the most impressive thing another character did, which is the fourth day. He investigated kind of a sideways way. He was a merchant. The woman who was getting married in Clearwater Village was also a merchant, so he used his mercantile skills to speak with some of the other traders in the area and gather information that way on some of these people of interest. And it was a very interesting way to use his skill set in a non-traditional manner to get things done. In fact, during his negotiations and trade talks, he actually set himself up for moving his own clan's agenda forward to conduct trade within the Crablands. So it was kind of like a twofold for his character. He got the information he was looking for, and he furthered the needs of his clan. I thought that was a really awesome moment for his character, and it speaks volumes to what L5R really is. So that would probably be the best game that I've ran. Now, the best game that I've played, I would probably say would be on Marquise or Stereotypical Strider's channel, which he did a Halloween game, and I've got to play Matt Mercer's Witch Hunter class when it was still in the Witch Hunter phase before it became the Blood Hunter. The class was very weak at that point, but I played him as a mounted mage using some optional rules from Steed and Steel. And it was so much fun. We fought the Headless Horseman, and we got to chase him down, and at one point, I had a feat that allowed me, whenever I cast a spell that targeted self, it also targeted my mount. The coolest moment in that game that I really loved was casting Spider Climb, and then it suddenly clicked in Marquise's head what I was doing. I ran the horse up the side of a barn to get away from the Headless Horseman initially, and the Headless Horseman just erupts through the barn at me, and we have this fight on top of a roof riding horses. It was really cool, and I don't think I could have accomplished that in another game. Marquise is definitely a rule of cool GM, and so am I. So, like, being able to play in a game like that is a lot of fun to me, and I think that was probably one of the best sessions I played in since 2015 August. So number 3 is character moment you're proudest of. I would probably say this one goes back a little further. Probably the one that I am most proud of would be in a Star Wars game. I got to play an Imperial Knight who was very strict to his code, but he ended up making friends with kind of some unlikely people, the party. And during an attack on a planet, they were there to establish some trade negotiations and some peace treaties. The Empire, or rather the Sith Empire, moved forward and attacked us. It was during the Legacy period, so there's a bunch of Sith that are attacking the planet. They have AT-ATs, ST-STs, they've got the whole shebang. TIE fighters are entering the planet along with TIE bombers, and we stay away from the shelling for a little while, but then after a while we kind of have to do something. So what ends up happening is there's an opportunity that we were given that we had to deal with some Sith Inquisitors, basically, and the only way that we could think to deal with them was to distract them, but unfortunately distracting them meant probably death for someone. My character, who follows the chivalric code of the Imperial Knights, says, you know what, you guys go ahead, I'll try and distract them and I'll catch up to you. Knowing full well and being warned by the Force that this would be his death, he still went into the building, he still fought the Sith so that his friends could get away, and he died. The players learned that he died because the building collapsed. The character, during his last few hit points, this being a Star Wars Sagas game, he used Move Object, and he ripped out one of the foundation pillars and smashed it into the other 3, collapsing the building with him and the Sith inside. It was this really epic moment that settled in on the players kind of hard because they had lost a character that was a friend, both to the players and to the PCs. And I thought that was a great chance to kind of show what RPGs are all about. Unfortunately, that wasn't a recorded game because that was when I was living in Boston, but nonetheless, it was a great game. As a side note, if you ever see Murdoch talking about doing a Star Wars game, that guy is super fun to play a Star Wars game with. Just real good expert on the EU and stuff like that. So if you see his games, jump on it. Let's see. I already answered most impressive thing another character did. With Joshua Kirk's kind of sideways investigation. The 5th was, what story does your group tell about your character? So the one that everybody usually tells is not necessarily my story alone, but more the story of the group that we had formed, which was the Orc tribe. My character in the Orc tribe was a elf who was a child of war that was raised by orcs, and he believed that orc was a state of being, not a race. So he believed himself to be orc, a true orc. He was raised amongst the orc culture, he passed his manhood trials, and by all rights, according to society, he was a orc. He would get mad when people told him he was an elf. At one point, a druid in our party, who was also an elf, kept telling him that he was an elf, and he threatened to kill her multiple times, and at one point she cast a spell that was an area of effect. It hit him and the only half-orc in the group, and he took it as an affront to his race, or his culture rather, and that ended up in the Druid dying. Um, which is probably not a proud moment, but the character was really fun. He started off as a ranger skirmisher Pathfinder. Then we got de-leveled from a magic spell, and he came back as a barbarian cavalier. And he took the Rage Rider path from barbarian, and I forget what he was for cavalier, but basically he was a badass raging mounted bastard who was a brilliant tactician when he didn't lose his mind on rage. And it was a ton of fun playing the character, because not only did we get de-leveled, but we got randomly assigned new classes again, and that's how I started as Cavalier, which was fun, but kind of strange. So I think Cade is probably the one that the group normally talks about the most, if not possibly maybe a Star Wars character I played named Conra, who was a martial arts badass is the best way to put it. Let's see here. Most amazing thing a game group did for their community. I think this one I would have to give to the RPG Brigade as a whole. The Child's Play and RPG Brigade Con, helping them out, I think is probably the most amazing thing that we do as a community. Benefiting children who maybe don't have the chance because their parents are too concerned about paying for medical treatments or facilities or things like that. Giving them a chance to play games and enjoy some of these things that we've discovered that have made us better people or more fun or just gotten us friends and things like that. That they can enjoy things as simple as that is really amazing. So the 7th was, what aspects of RPGs have had the biggest effect on you? I would probably say let's see, an aspect of an RPG. I would probably say the biggest effect on me from an RPG would be intrigue as an aspect of an RPG. I love intrigue games. I love investigations. I love murder mysteries in a game. I absolutely hate reading books about it. Don't know why. Just, I like playing it. I don't like reading about it. It's kind of like soccer. I love to play soccer. I don't like to watch it. Same basic effect. But what RPGs and intrigue plots have done for me is got me to think analytically and to think out of the box sometimes. And I think that exercise is really healthy for you. They say that the best way to grow your brain is to contemplate problems. And I think problem solving in games, and especially intrigue stuff to me, because that's what I'm more interested in than necessarily a puzzle, I think is really good because it helps me as a person think about how other people will react to things, how they should react, and anticipate that. Which, for those of you that don't know, I have PTSD, and a lot of the things that come with that is I usually analyze a lot of situations, and I try to come up with scenarios in my head, and I work things out, and I come up with like plan A through C, D, or even Z sometimes. And doing intrigue games has made that process faster for me, and it's just a tool that I use to cope with my own condition. So I think that that's really helped me out on a personal level. I think beyond that, it's served as a great tool to make friendships that are long-lasting. The guys that I play with from Boston, I've played with them since 2009. We're in 2016. This is probably the longest game group that I've ever had. And these guys are like family to me. They came down for the wedding, and we had a blast together. We even tried to figure out a way so that we could play and do a little Facebook Live and be like, here we are live at a game table, but it just didn't work with the wedding. It ate up too much of our time, but we'll figure out something. Maybe if we go on vacation up to Boston, we'll do something like that. So those are the 7 days of the first week. Come the 14th, I will do the next 7, which includes days 8 and 9, which I'm currently missing, to kind of catch up. And hopefully that will be the on-time edition instead of the late edition. So I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. And as always, guys, if you like the video, feel free to share, comment, or subscribe if you're new. If you are new, I'd ask you to do all 3 of them, but any of them would do. I would be glad to have another viewer if you feel so inclined. With that said, guys, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you at the gaming table.